However, Minister, there is for me, I suppose, one significant fly in the ointment, and that is in the area of the Environmental Protection Agency. I have to say that when reports were brought to me initially in relation to their operation and function, oversight, inspections and enforcement, I actually greeted them with disbelief. I didn't think it was possible in this day and age for it to happen. If you like, I sort of greeted it with, the idea of this cannot be happening. That would be an appalling vista, if you like, that the watchdog that the state and the government have established to protect the public interest, to protect the public health, to protect the environment, that it would not be doing its job in a most thorough and effective and efficient manner. If you like, policing the environment and the public health for us, I would have thought that it is not possible. However, Minister, I am distressed to say and worried that this is unfortunately the case in my view. I do not think the EPA, as it's currently functioning, is fit for purpose. I do not think it's doing its job. I do not think it's living up to the remit that you and the government have charged it with, to protect the public health and to protect the environment from pollution. And I'm not talking about, Minister, an accident, a one-off incident, or something that no one could have foreseen. I'm talking about systemic and systematic failures. And I'm not just talking about any local issues. This is the case, in my view, up and down the length and breadth of the country. I've been inundated with representations from members of the community and the public who all have the same sorry tale to tell. They all say that they're living in misery, Minister. That's the word they use, because the EPA will not come to their assistance. The EPA will not believe them. The EPA will not help them. The EPA categorises them and routinely dismisses them as cranks and people who do not know and are not aware of what's going on. But, Minister, I have to say, nowhere is this more shockingly manifest than in my own hometown of Portlaoise. I've raised this previously in April, and I was hopeful that at that stage, that when we put it on the public record, that the EPA would be stung to spring into action. But on the contrary, unfortunately, they're still in denial. And what I am saying, I say so with reluctance. I'm saying so in the full consideration of the seriousness of the charges I'm making. But there's nothing, Minister, I will say here inside the House that I'm not willing to repeat outside the House. Because while I am no scientist, and I am no environmental scientist, or no chemist or physicist, I do know people who are damn good ones. And the data is staring us in the face. The evidence is staring the EPA in the face. And I'm saying, Minister, they are aware of high levels of concentration of unlicensed, unregulated emissions from the industrial oil recycling plant in Portlaoise, ENVA, which is owned by a very wealthy and profitable publicly quoted company, DCC. This is not a small-time operation. This is a huge plant, and it operates on an international scale and an international level. And, Minister, I am sorry to say that they are emitting harmful toxins like benzenes, toluene, and volatile organic compounds into the atmosphere on an ongoing and weekly basis. This is not acceptable in this day and age. We have at our disposal, Minister, best available technology and systems that could prevent this from happening and could stop it in the morning if there was a willingness by the EPA to enforce these standards, to implement these standards, and by the company, which is very profitable, to invest in this technology and these standards. But, Minister, they're on record to the EPA, writing back to them saying they're not willing to spend the money. The public health is not worth the investment. Minister, we have suffered in this country by poor, thank you, Caroline, by poor regulation, by light touch regulation, by lax regulation, by turning the blind eye, We have seen it in the area of child protection, and look what happened. We have seen it in the area of financial services and the banking sector, and look what happened. We have seen it in the area of the charities regulation, and look what happened. Minister, is it going to take another tribunal? Is it going to take another prime-time investigates to expose the ineptitude of the EPA before we are stung into action? I believe as public representatives, we cannot turn a blind eye when information is brought to our attention. It is our duty and responsibility to protect the public health and the public interest. What is the point, Minister, in thinking that we've appointed a watchdog so that we can sleep easy in our beds if they were to do their jobs, but we have to then second guess and wonder are they doing their job? What I'm asking you, Minister, here today is to take on board our concerns and representations. I'll finish now, Cathaoirleach. I'll draw to a close as I move the motion. I know the Minister is a good man, is an honourable man, and is someone who will not allow this to continue. And while the EPA has been established as an independent body, that does not mean that it's not answerable to anyone or it's not unaccountable. They must be held to account, and I'm asking today that we investigate what's going on in Portlaoise, that we investigate the conduct of the EPA, because it's no longer acceptable, Minister. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator.